Czechoslovakia. It may be just one word, but Čecho comes first. So I think very often when we talk about Czechoslovakia, we talk about it from the Czech point of view. So today, let's do the opposite. Let's talk about Czechoslovakia from the Slovak point of view. And we're gonna do it through two very interesting characters. Let's start with Czechoslovakia between the wars. Let's start with Milan Rastislav Štefanik. He was born 1880 in a little village at the top of the Little Carpathians, so Western Slovakia. His birthplace is also today a little museum, but unfortunately we came late and it was closed. Anyway, born into a family of, you guessed it, an evangelical pastor, so once again, you guessed it, he also studied in the famous Bratislava Lyceum. But then he moved to Prague, and in Prague he started astronomical career. Plus, he was very active in all the Czechoslovak societies, for example, telling Czechs about the Magyarization of the time. And then he also met a gentleman called Masaryk, so keep it in mind. But then he moved on to Paris, and his astronomical career went through the roof, so to speak. So, for example, he was one of the people who established an observatory on top of Mont Blanc. Yes, you heard me right. Then the French government starts sending him to places like Northern Africa, Central Asia, even Tahiti. And then he is in Ecuador and First World War begins. So because he has issues with health, he's not on the front line from the beginning. But 1915, he trains to be a pilot and then he's fighting in France, Serbia and Italy. Actually, acquiring with time even the post of general. But first and foremost, he's a diplomat. He's also fighting for the creation of Czechoslovak legions in France and in Italy. And he becomes so important that he is actually sent to Moscow and then all the way to Washington. And of course, it's not only about Czechoslovak legions, it's also about the Czechoslovak independence at the end of the war. So then he is sent to Japan, Vladivostok, and end of the war, Czechoslovakia becomes independent. So Štefanik, next to two Czechs, Masaryk and Beneš, is one of the three most important people in the first Czechoslovak independence. So after 4 years of military and diplomatic battles and traveling almost the whole world, he is given a post of Minister of War. So from Vladivostok he went to France, Italy, and May 1919 he's taking a plane with three other Italians, and they are about to land near Bratislava, but there's a problem, the plane crashes, all of the four die. So poor Štefanik did not get to see the homeland, which became independent in great part thanks to him. So then late 20s, Dušan Jurković, a very important architect at the time, and he's going to come back later on, he was given an order to build a huge monumental grave of Štefanik. And here we are at the moment on one of the hills close to his birth village. And as you can see, there are some spectacular views. The grave is monumental. And an interesting thing, we are there roughly around 9th of May. So it is the end of the Second World War, doesn't matter. The place is filled with flowers for Štefanik, although he is the time of the First World War. So obviously an important person for the people there, and so important that obviously he's in public space. For example, the airport of Bratislava is named after him, which is maybe not the best idea considering that he died in a plane crash. If it was a plane crash. There is another theory. He was very much at the end of the war at odds with Beneš, one of the important Czechs, about one issue. Beneš wanted united Czechoslovakia. Štefanik wanted Czechoslovakia, federal state, an issue we talked about in the 4th episode. So there is a theory the French who supported Beneš are responsible for the accident. It is very much possible then that Štefanik wouldn't like what's written here, Czechoslovak as one word. Anyway, let's leave the theories aside and let's see something that poor Štefanik did not get to see. So first Czechoslovakia. There are of course many vestiges from those times. We're going to visit one on the outskirts of Bratislava, right at the Austrian border, which is going to be when we are going to walk. See, the thing is, Vienna is very close, which is nice today. You can go from Bratislava to Vienna for coffee, or the other way around. But especially in the 30s, people are thinking maybe from Vienna you will not come to have coffee on a train, but you are going to come as conqueror in a tank. And mind you, 1933, Adolf Hitler takes power in Germany, and he is adamant about all the Germans living in the Third Reich. So Czechoslovakia is afraid. They have around 3 million ethnic Germans inside the country, most of them in the so-called Sudetenland in western Czechia. But in Bratislava, people are also afraid maybe Austria will come. So in the 30s, Czechoslovakia is building something like a Maginot Line, a big line of defenses, mostly in the west, of course. But here, around Bratislava, also they start building defenses in case of an Austrian attack. So right in the outskirts of Bratislava till the very day, you can see in open fields bunkers. And we decided to find the one that supposedly maintained best. And here it is. BS8 Hřbitov. I have actually no clue about the military, to be honest. So if it's big or not, if it's well designed or not, if it's modern for the time or not, I have no idea. All I can tell you there is that the first impression, well, it is impressive. And there is still this type of thinking, I guess, that Czechoslovakia was actually weak because they basically, without a fight, surrendered. But they were ready. They were actually very much ready. So let's have a look at the plan. Bratislava is above the line of the Danube River, and you can see this arch at the bottom. 15 bunkers. Not only bunkers though. They are prepared 35 to 38, but also anti-tank ditches and shelters for heavy machine guns. So actually, the line of defense around Bratislava was very well prepared, as an example of Czechoslovakia as such being ready to fight. So what went wrong? Diplomacy. In the end, September 38, Czechoslovakia is basically abandoned by its Western allies. Now when it comes to the visiting of the bunker, unfortunately it was closed. Supposed to be opened officially, but closed, so I guess not too many people coming. We should have called earlier. Anyway, even from the outside, impressive, and there are some cute things around as well. Have you actually wondered how a, let's call it, soldier bathroom looks like? Well, it looks like this. Welcome to Villa Helena. So with this little bit of everyday life, let's say goodbye to the bunker. So, for the end, an extra piece of irony. When the place is finished in 38, late 38, conference in Munich, and Hitler does not only grab Western Czechoslovakia, the Sudetenland, he also grabs Petržalka, where we are. So when the place is finished, he gets a beautiful little gift. Supposedly within half a year, he came to visit his newly claimed beautiful bunkers. Czechoslovakia regains the place in 45 at the end of Second World War, but when it comes to the borders of Second Czechoslovakia, we'll get to the topic very soon. Now let's move on, and actually when we talk about Second Czechoslovakia, there are testimonies of those times everywhere. For example, what you're seeing now is the famous Petržalka, a huge complex of the 70s blocks of flats. But of course there's the famous UFO on the bridge from the 70s as well. We haven't visited it, supposedly it's a bit of a tourist trap. And we're gonna see some other UFOs, but now my architectural trauma. Running around the place, I have gone through a trauma. And I've seen one of the ugliest buildings in my life, and you have to go through the trauma with me. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! Okay, I did exaggerate a bit, but maybe only a bit. The Telegraph put it among the 50 ugliest buildings of the 20th century. And mind you, the opinions are actually divided. There are people who very much defend it, architects and Slovaks as such. When it comes to the building, it is built for the Slovak radio, and it took a while, 67 to 83. The architect said that what they wanted to do is get rid of social realism, which they found dull and boring, and they wanted something unique and special. And the thing is, whether you like it or not, it is most definitely not a boring building. But actually, when it comes to the second Czechoslovakia, let's leave architecture and talk about another very important person. So we have to go back to Uchrovec, the little village, the little town we went to in the last episode. It's not only Ludovit Štur who was born there. In the same building, another very important person was born. Welcome to Alexander Dubček. So the coincidence here is absolutely amazing. So he was born here in 1921, but did not live for long, 4 years old, and his parents, who were true communists and Esperantists, emigrated to today's Kyrgyzstan, to Bishkek, where they were building an Esperantist commune. Then they moved to today's Nizhny Novgorod, so still Russia, but then the 30s, Stalinism kicks in heavily, and in the end, by 38, the whole family is back to Slovakia. The father is still involved in the Communist Party, so he ends up, by the end of the war, in Mauthausen, a concentration camp in Austria. Alexander and his older brother involved in the Slovak uprising. Alexander was wounded, and his older brother died. Then he married in 45, they have 3 kids in the end, and more importantly for us at the moment, Alexander, after all, from a communist family, joins the party, and he is young, active, and so on and so forth. So 55, he is sent to Moscow to a university, where in 56 he witnessed fall of Stalinism, which supposedly had a great impact on him. He comes back and is a member of a commission which is supposed to right the wrongs of the Stalinist period. So he becomes in the end leader of the reformists, and what they want is socialism with a human face. By late 67, they're strong enough to challenge the old guys for power, and 5th of January 68, Dubček officially becomes the first secretary of the Communist Party, and this is the symbolical beginning of what we know today as the Prague Spring. Now, more in detail about the Prague Spring, I would love to tell you one day in Prague. But here, let's talk about just 2 little details. So first of all, we know how it ended, but there was a diplomatic approach first. They tried. So by late July, Brezhnev and Dubček, they met in a place called Čierna nad Tisou. It's a tiny town in southeast Slovakia. So let's go there for a moment. And you've got this monument because basically the place grew rapidly because it was right at the border with the Soviet Union of the time. So it was basically a transport hub for trains. And that's the point. Brezhnev wants to talk in the Soviet Union. Dubček wants to talk in Prague. So in the end, they kind of decided on a compromise. Brezhnev would come for 4 days, late July, in a train from Soviet Union. And here the train would stop in this town, and they, in the train of Brezhnev, would talk about issues. So basically Brezhnev says, less liberty. Dubček says, it's our own issue. In the end, we know that nothing came out of it. But, as you can see, first of all, the place is empty. Unfortunately, I think this is an example of a town which was created pretty much by communism and fell with it. But more importantly for us at the moment, there is no monument, there is no plaque when it comes to the meeting. Nothing came out of it, doesn't matter. It was an important piece of history, I think, but there's unfortunately nothing about it. The only thing we found was this typical second Czechoslovakia monument, and something absurd. This is to the liberators, Prague 45, same people, Prague 68. So it is a bit absurd to have such a thing in a place where diplomacy failed and soon tanks roll in. Another absurd is to call it Prague Spring. If it's Prague, why do you have in Slovakia till the very day plenty of places with names of victims of 68? So it wasn't the Prague Spring, it was Czechoslovakian Spring, and maybe even more Slovak than Czech, because turns out one of the important topics they were talking about is decentralization of the country. Less Prague, more Slovakia. So here's a good example. This photo is supposedly taken in Prague. Is it? The building in the background is the building in the background. I'm pretty much standing where the photographer used to be. That's the main university building in Bratislava. And actually even the photographer got completely forgotten. His family is still fighting for his memory. So here he is. Ladislav Bielik was his name. Now, Dubček himself got quickly arrested with his entourage. They were sent to Moscow and they had to sign some protocols. He was allowed to come back, but very soon was thrown out of the party, pretty much thrown out from public life. And pretty much 20 years he spent in isolation under the vigilant eye of the secret services, of course. It is only 88-9 when problems begin again, when he came back to public life as kind of a symbol of the first try of Czechoslovaks at liberty. So now, hopefully, the second time would work, and it did work. So he came back to public life in full. He became one of the leaders of the Social Democratic Party of Slovakia. He was elected into parliament in 92, and then there is a car accident. And as a result, he died in November 92. But his fame did not die with him. He is still pretty much the symbol of the hopes of the Czechoslovaks in 68. Unfortunately, many people did lose hope. So you wouldn't be able to visit the bunker that we visited today easily, even 30 plus years ago, as it was in no man's land, part of the Iron Curtain. And mind you, Bratislava is right next door, so you would have things happening like in Berlin itself. And it's not simply Soviets now, it's your own people shooting you in the back. If it's shooting, here you have a monument to a young German who tried to cross the border. He was eaten alive by dogs. So if you go to Devin, to the castle that we went to last episode, you will find this monument at the Danube, at the river. So I imagine this is a symbol of a gate between hell and heaven. Now, see the bullets? They're on your side. It's your own people trying to shoot you in the back. And the names, around 400 of them, are the victims of the Iron Curtain. And this is actually fascinating in Slovakia. You will find all those Soviet monuments everywhere. But also, you will find such monuments like, for example, to the victims of the Iron Curtain itself. Now, mind you, I don't want to finish the episode on such a heavy note. So let's have another symbol from the time of Czechoslovakia that's very Slovak. I do have weird ideas sometimes. So one of them is to show you this building. Actually, the one that's drawing your attention right now with this beautiful Baroque entrance is not the important one. Here's the important bit. Now you see, be about. There's burgers, or actually there will be burgers, because as you can see, there are works, so it's not opened yet. And they have to deal with the place because not a long time ago there was something different. U Troch Zajacov, at the Three Rabbits. That was a very important pub. We're in the 70s. A very important group started playing. This is the birthplace, so to speak, of Elan. Think of them as a Slovak Queen. So the idea is, I'm gonna ask random people here and there about their favorite Elan song. After a week or two, we're gonna see what is going to come up. Your favorite song by Elan? Vymyslená?
By Elan? O, Voda nad vodou.
Moja obľúbená pesnička Nie sme zlí.
Si Kočka.
Tanečnice z Lúčnice.
Áno.
Čaba, neblázni.
Ani neviem tak na chytro. Všetky sú krásne.
Bosorka.
Ježiš, Bosorka.
So, Bosorka is the winner. I'm gonna leave you a link in description to the song and also give you titles of all the songs mentioned anyway. But let's listen to our guide from Bratislava again.
First of all, I'm not too fond of Elan as well. I'm not fond of their frontman Jožo Ráš. His opinions on the world overall, they are not in line with my views.
What did he mean by that? So here's roughly a quote. I'm not a racist, but I'm afraid of the Chinese. There are too many, so I keep some guns at home. If they come, I'm gonna be able to shoot some hundreds, and then the last 3 bullets are for me and my family. Seriously, artists sometimes should just open their mouths to sing and not to speak. Anyway, here's one more very important piece of Czechoslovakia, kinda alive. The main symbol of Czechoslovakia in my head is the kofola. So it is actually made in the Czech Republic, but it's pretty much a Slovak national drink as well, I think I can say. And supposedly you become Slovak when you can tell the difference between kofola from the bottle and from the tap. Yes, they actually do it like with the beer. And mind you, after a week or two, I was actually able to tell the difference. And let me show you this nice garden again, because first of all you can see the important building in the background, the building from the famous photo from '68, and I wanted to tell you the whole story there. And look, I'm actually telling you about it with a lot of passion and everything, but that's what happens when you start as a YouTuber. I actually did not plug the microphone properly, so look at me go. Anyway, with this epic fail, let us slowly start leaving Bratislava. So a couple of extra little photos, and mind you, we spent 3 full days there running around and talking and visiting important places and so on and so forth. So a great stay, I have to say. But you might have noticed there were no palfies in the last episode. Amazing, right? And we have none of them, right? Here they are again. There is no way to escape the palfies. Well, we're trying. So we're leaving Bratislava to a place called Senec. Turns out it's one of the most popular places for the Slovaks. Maybe because it's next to the Bratislava region. So many of them come because there are some lakes here. And we are actually going to spend only one evening, but it's an evening well spent. Not only beautiful views and the sunset, but also good cold beer. So enjoy the view with us, because it is relaxing, yes, but it's not gonna last long. In our next episode we are going to go a gear up. So enjoy the view, but the next photo is a trailer of the topic to come. But I would like to finish the episode with another beautiful view of the lake and the sunset. And for now, this is it. Thank you very much for your attention, and I am going to see you soon again.